Welcome to a new episode of حكايا مبتعث, Tales of a Scholar Abroad, the podcast that celebrates the inspiring journeys of Saudi students and their experiences overseas, along with insights from experienced professionals to benefit scholars abroad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are honored to welcome a very special guest, Dr. Simon, a key figure at Curtin English. Dr. Simon has an extensive history of supporting international students, especially Saudi students, on their journey to mastering the English language. Join us as we explore into his insights, stories, and reflections on the challenges and achievement of language learning. Welcome, Dr. Simon.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to take part in this podcast.
So I would like to start first with the first question, which is what motivation Saudi student passing for learning the English language at Curtin English Institute?
Thank you. I think in the beginning, not that many of the students have a passion deliberately for English language learning. They have a passion for becoming engineers or for becoming speech therapists or for becoming educators. And the English is just a way to get to that ambition. In some cases, it's even seen as a barrier. But I do think that initially they have that instrumental motivation because they need English in order to achieve something. But in many cases, as they spend more time here and want to be able to communicate more effectively with all their classmates from China and Vietnam and Peru and Colombia and so on, and as they get the passion coming across from their teachers, I think very many of them develop and grow a real intrinsic motivation and a real passion and desire for the language learning in itself.
So good. So we move into another question, which is what the challenges may international student face while learning English as a second language? Are there effective solutions to overcome these challenges?
Look, there are lots of challenges. No one can pretend that it's easy to learn a foreign language when you haven't grown up with it. And it's a big jump from learning how to order a coffee and ask directions to the nearest school to learning English well enough to actually produce pieces of academic writing, often at a master's level or even a PhD level. So it's a huge challenge. And for Saudi students, generally speaking, they're really good at speaking. They tend to be excellent at speaking. But often for them, writing is the biggest challenge of all. Starting from a different alphabet and a different traditional way of writing, needing the basics of grammar. The writing is often the biggest challenge for Saudi students. For solutions, well, there are no shortcuts, I'm afraid. You can't come to us and I can't promise you that we have some magic formula that's going to help you learn English in no time at all. I think the basis of it is hard work. You need to practice your English every day. You need to take every opportunity to work on the underlying grammar and so on. But one of the things we try to do at Curtin English is to help students develop independent learning skills, autonomous learning and study skills, so that it's not just what they learn in the limited time they have in the classroom with us, but they can continue to learn and improve and develop their English outside the class and even after they've stopped studying with us. So I think that's the main thing. I suppose, given that I've said that writing is one of the most challenging aspects for most Saudi students, spending time planning a piece of writing is a very important aspect of being successful. If your English isn't perfect and also your piece of writing is not very clearly and well organized and structured, it makes it very difficult to follow and understand. If you have a really clear, well-planned, logical structure to your writing, even if there are still a few mistakes in there, usually the reader can understand what you want to say and you can communicate very effectively. So that would be my advice.
It's a good advice, actually. And so moving now to another question, which is important question to us. How long have you been meeting a Saudi student? And do you remember the first Saudi student you met? What was your impression about this things?
So I don't remember the first Saudi student I met. I have actually visited Saudi Arabia. So before I came to Curtin, I lived for some time in Qatar, working for the British Council, and I went several times to Saudi Arabia. But then I don't think I met students. I met work colleagues at the British Council. What I do remember is that when I started at Curtin English, maybe about 12 years ago, we had a lot of Saudi students. And please correct me if I'm wrong about Saudi culture, but it seems that the cultural tendency is to want to speak to the director or the person at the top of the organization. And so I would get little lines of Saudi students coming to visit me in my office. Very often on a Friday afternoon after prayers, they would come and visit me to ask me for some advice or to talk about any particular issue they had. But they were lovely, warm people, and we got on very well. And I got to expect the regular visits on a Friday afternoon for them to talk to me.
So now we'll move into the another question, which is we have here. The question is: have you faced any memorable indicator or situation while teaching or working?
I think I probably faced many interesting situations. I can talk about a couple. I remember relatively early in my teaching career, I was teaching English in Vietnam to some Vietnamese business people. And this was in the 1990s when Vietnam was still economically quite poor. And in the middle of the class, the electricity cut out and we were in complete darkness. And what the students did, they basically went outside and brought all their motorbikes up to the door and the window and turned on their motorbike headlights. And we carried on and delivered the class by motorbike headlight lighting. So I was really impressed by their flexibility there. I was very excited and honoured on a couple of occasions to have the British Prime Ministers come to visit the country I was working in, and I had to show them around and meet them. I met Tony Blair and I met Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown was the one who surprised me because his reputation in the newspapers was for being a little bit serious and dour and not very exciting to meet. And actually he was lovely. He was very warm and got on very well with the students he met, and really was quite different from his public image. Maybe I could talk about one more. I don't know how long you want. When I arrived to work in Russia for the first time, and I'd only been there for 1 or 2 days, when I had to make a speech at a big conference to several thousand people. So I was a little bit nervous because I was very new to Russia, but I thought it had gone quite well. I have a reputation for smiling a lot, and often that's helped me in different cultures to get on with people well. But on this occasion, after my lecture at the conference, the Dean of Foreign Languages at this university said to me, "You smile too much. In Russia, if you smile when there's not a good reason to smile, people think you are stupid. They think you are like the village idiot. So please do not smile so much." So that was a quick lesson for me, and it was good advice that she was honest with me and told me about that. So I learned not to smile except if there was a good joke or a real reason to smile while I was living in Russia.
Now we move into we have noticed that you are attendance and continuous support for Saudi Club, so which is thank you for that. So for events in Perth here. So how do you feel that about attending this event? What do you think? What do you feel about when you see the Saudi culture, when you see the Saudi, your students there? Let us about your feeling And so, as we said, like, we are happy to see your support, to see you attending in our event, ceremony, graduated ceremony, National Day, all other days that and made here in Australia.
Okay, well, first of all, let me say thank you for inviting me to these events, and please do continue to invite me because I thoroughly enjoy them. And I think most of the time when I'm meeting the students, I'm either seeing them in the classroom or we're having formal discussions about their progress or something like that. And it's a totally different feeling when I'm able to go to one of these social events and see the students out of the classroom and see them being their natural selves. It's a lovely atmosphere, I find, at these kind of events. It's great to see the students often with their family members, sometimes with their children. And it's great opportunity for me to feel a part of the Saudi culture. It's a very warm, hospitable culture. There's always coffee and sweet things to eat and things like that. People always make me feel very, very welcome and feel that they're glad that I'm there. So there's a mutuality there where I'm grateful to have been invited to participate in what feels like almost a family occasion and maybe to feel a little bit a part of that family. And I do feel that my presence is appreciated, and particularly my own students, when they see me there, they seem to enjoy that very much and appreciate the fact that I'm there. So it works well, I think, on all sides, and it's something I look forward to when these occasions come around and really enjoy participating in.
So thank you, Dr. Simon. So now we have the end of the question in our podcast here and episode. So is the English Language Institute, The English Language Institute is often the first stop for Saudi student in Australia. Have you managed that to handle this transitions smoothly in a way that doesn't affect their subsequent academic journey for Saudi students?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because it is a big adjustment going from Saudi Arabia to Australia. So many little cultural differences, so many differences in climate and so on. I have to say that generally speaking, I think the Saudi students adjust very well and very quickly to being here. And they do have a lot of support. Not least the Saudi club gives them a really supportive environment when they first arrived, and the Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission support them. And then the fact that here at Curtin University, halal food is available and there's a musala, I think that also helps them to settle in. But at Curtin English specifically, in our beginning of studies with us, we have a section called Curtin Life. And in Curtin Life, we try to introduce new students to all aspects of Australian culture, Australian academic culture in particular. We teach students about culture shock and how to deal with culture shock. We even include things like making sure how to keep yourself safe if you go to the beach, with the waves and so on that you can get in Australia. So we cover all sorts of different aspects of adjusting to life here. And I think that is really appreciated by students and helps them make that transition. The other thing to say is that Curtin English programs are not purely about English. They are what we call academic literacy. So they are preparing the students for what they will need to do when they go into their mainstream undergraduate or postgraduate course. And we help teach them how to plan and structure their academic writing, how to reference, how to paraphrase, and many other aspects which the feedback we get from the students once they go to their mainstream course is that it's enormously helpful. And it does help them on, as you put it, their subsequent academic journey. It helps them to be successful when they've had that grounding with us at Curtin English. So generally, I think most of the Saudi students really do settle in well here, and they are very successful in their mainstream studies.
Thank you, Dr. Simon, for continuous support and for all the international students. So finally now, do you have any advice or words that of wisdom you would like to share with Saudi students as they navigate their academic and personal journeys?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the first thing is that you are here not just to study. And of course, the study is an enormously important part of it. But you're here to experience a new and different culture, a new and different place. So make the time to explore Perth and the surrounding areas of Western Australia outside of Perth. Make the time to visit the museums or whatever you're interested in, to attend cafes, to whatever it is that gives you interest. But don't just be here to study, be here to really fully experience everything that Perth and Western Australia has to offer. My second piece of advice would be follow your passion. When you're choosing which courses to study, what to focus on what interests you the most, what gives you passion, what gets you out of bed in the morning. And if you do that, you're bound to be successful. So that would certainly be my advice.
Thank you, Dr. Simon, and wish to see you again in Saudi events or any another event. So thank you again for continuous supporting all international students. So we would like to say the Saudi Student Club would like to say thank you for you, and happy to see you, and wishing good luck for English school and at Curtin University.
Thank you very much, and let me reciprocate by saying thank you to the Saudi Club for all that you do for all the students and for inviting me to so many of your events. Thank you.